The sixth and final process of the deliver service and support domain is called Manage Business Process Controls, has 6 practices. The third practice is to manage roles and responsibilities and levels of authority. The entities responsible for this practice are the business process owners, the chief financial officer, and the information security manager. The entity that is held accountable is the business executives. The practice receives several inputs which include the assigned responsibilities for resource management from the EDM4 process, the ISMS scope statement from the APO13 process, and the access logs from the DSS05 process. It generates 3 outputs which are the allocated roles and responsibilities to be used by the APO1 process, the allocated access rights to be used by the APO7 process, and the allocated levels of authority to be used by the APO1 process. The activities involved in this practice include allocating roles and responsibilities based on the approved job descriptions. The levels of authority for decision-making and transaction approval should be defined and allocated. Access rights and privileges should be allocated and reviewed constantly. Roles for sensitive activities should be allocated, and segregation of duties should be ensured. Training and awareness regarding the roles should be provided regularly, so that the personnel understand their responsibilities. The fourth practice is to manage errors and exceptions. The entity responsible for this practice is the IT service manager, and the entity that is held accountable is the business process owners. The practice receives no inputs, but generates 2 outputs which are, the evidence of error correction to be used by the MEA2 process, and the error reports and root cause analysis to be used internally. The activities involved in this practice include, defining procedures to assign ownership and correct errors. Deviations and errors should be reviewed, and source documents should be corrected and resubmitted. Evidence of remedial actions should be maintained, and relevant business process errors should be reported in a timely manner. The fifth practice is to ensure traceability of information events. The entity held accountable is the business process owners. The practice receives no inputs, but generates 2 outputs which are, the retention requirements, and the record of transactions, both to be used internally. The activities involved in this practice include, defining the event retention criteria based on business requirements. Source information and the supporting evidence should be documented, and then disposed of later as per the retention policy. The sixth and last practice is to secure information assets. The entity held accountable is the business process owners. The practice receives no inputs, but generates 1 output which is, the reports of violation, to be used by the DSS5 process. The activities involved in this practice include, applying data classification and security policies to protect the information assets. Acceptable use training should be provided, and physical access should be restricted. Compliance verification tools should be implemented, and violations should be reported to the business.